Industrial Marketing Live is a community for industrial marketers. We want to learn together. We want to grow together. We want to, advance our careers, and we want to grow our companies and, do cool stuff. So that's what we're trying to talk about here. We love the chat. We love cameras. We love for folks to ask questions and join in, come on stage. We're not the only ones doing this stuff out here in the world. So if you've got expertise that you can share with the group, please, chime in. We do ask that in the beginning, you keep muted just to make sure that everyone can hear the first, 15, 20 minutes or so. We'll talk through a topic, and then we'll kind of jump into wherever the world takes us. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Today's topic is, what does demand generation mean for industrial companies? So I think the first thing, and one of the questions that I asked, because demand generation was a new term for me over the last couple of years, but what is that? What is demand generation? And the way that we look at it at Gorilla is, it's a strategy and a tactic where you can build awareness, trust, and authority with your entire audience using something like paid social. And you're doing that with your entire audience, not just the ones who are in buy mode. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit more about today. And we have a little presentation, which we don't always do on Industrial Marketing Live. So we're excited to show you that. So I'm going to hand it over to Brendon to share his screen, and we'll go ahead from there.
All right. Share. There we go. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Peyton. So let's dive right into it. So I think the first thing that we want to talk about when we're talking about demand generation is what does results actually mean to us? So, traditionally, we look at a regular marketing funnel, right, where you have a large amount of leads that lead into a much smaller amount of sales qualified leads, which leads to then another smaller amount of quoted opportunities. And then hopefully at the end of that funnel, you have a couple customers that pop out. So when we talk like traditional funnel, we're talking about things like, for industrials, going to trade shows and just collecting a ton of leads from there. Maybe these people don't know who your company is. They haven't, maybe shared a lot of intent at the trade show, but you're in collect mode there. So you're getting leads there. You might have an ebook or a white paper download. Your leads might be a list of people from Zoom Info or Hoover's database that you just put into your CRM and say they're my leads now, right? And then, cold prospecting. So you have like a list of companies and you're just trying to call on them. You use Sales Navigator and LinkedIn. None of these people have really raised their hands to say that they want to learn more. Maybe those people at the trade show a little bit. But so you have this huge amount of leads that don't really know who your company is. And so you're considering them leads. And then you're using your sales team to, force them down the funnel to become a quoted opportunity, hopefully. Right. And so I don't know what a normal salesperson is looking at on cold call, like the success rate they're having, but it's probably not super high. It was really frustrating for me when I was an inside salesperson. So I think when we're talking about transitioning over to doing demand generation, we start looking at a more focused funnel, right? So we're putting out educational type material. We're waiting for people to raise their hand and say, I want to get more information. What you're putting out is interesting. So we end up with a smaller amount of leads, but because the funnel is focused, we end up with leads that are a lot more engaged, they have higher intent, and they're actually ready to move through the buying process. So that leads into a larger amount of sales qualified leads than we had in the traditional funnel. Moving down to a larger amount of quoted opportunities. It's just because these people know who your company is. They've raised their hand, right? They filled out your high intent form on your website, and then you end up with a larger amount of better customers. So what we look at here at Gorilla for our North Star metric is marketing source pipeline. Are we actually contributing to revenue, right? Whereas like in a traditional marketing type company, you're looking at leads. You hear a lot about like marketing qualified leads. And so you see a lot of people in the SaaS community talking about, well, we got to get those ebooks out. We got to do those white papers. So we just collect email addresses. So put it back to the community. Do you kind of feel the same way about this or not? Throw it in the chat. We'd like to have you jump on here. Mary, do you have anything else to add to this?
Yeah, I would just like to add, I think you did a great job explaining that, Brendon. When we have seen companies switch over to doing more of a focused funnel or something where they're not necessarily collecting volume of leads, but quality of leads, we see better marketing and sales alignment too. So we see sales guys coming into calls we have saying, oh my gosh, thank you guys. Like these contacts are not only better quality, but they're also higher intent. So they're ready to buy now rather than like, yeah, I'm talking to like 3 or 4 vendors. I might, put out a contract in 6 months. It's like the sales cycle speeding up, sales is happy, marketing is happy. So like you have that better alignment too when you start to focus on opportunities over leads.
Yeah. I have a feeling that going the focused funnel route is a lot better lifestyle choice for a salesperson, right? Instead of wasting all their time talking to people that aren't interested in your company, they're talking to people that actually care and have projects happening right now, right? Like if you look at like a salesperson, all they care about is, booking new business and making commissions. They don't make a lot of commissions in the traditional funnel. If you use the focus funnel, your commissions are a lot higher because you're only talking to people that want to do business with you. Is that true from what all these other marketers have seen out there? Do sales like working with a more focused funnel than a traditional funnel? Julie says that her company's starting to gain traction. John says 100% yes. Yeah.
And John also had a really great point too about, and I think we'll talk about this a little bit more too, about having content for each stage too. So it's like they're moving down this funnel, but we want to make sure we're meeting them where they're at still.
John, do you want to hop on quick and talk about your experience with, using a more focused funnel?
Yeah, the simple example I'll use is, if you look at traditional funnel, think of like a trade show, like everyone that comes by your booth isn't a lead. They're
right.
A lead because, hey, you're giving away an iPad or a gift card. So those are your leads, right? But then when you actually think about it and go back to your team and say, who are we actually going to follow up with? Those are your MQLs or your leads that you're really going to focus on. So that's your focus funnel. So yes, you're going to attract all the interns and every student that wants to win something at your booth. You're going to talk to them, but they have no buying authority. They have no clout. They don't even know who you are. They forgot you as soon as they left. So you have to really be realistic. So when I was at a trade show, we had 500 people, but then when we really looked at it and we layered on ABM, which I don't want to confuse, it was only 50, right? So we did all this work and got 500, but then we were able to focus that down to 50 and then attacked it. And of course, it's you take care of the other 450 and you just, put them and just send over thought leadership and evergreen stuff. But the 50 that you're focused on, that's where you want to have those better conversations and really start driving them down and really focus on them. Because, come on, Brendon, we want to make more money. Who am I going to talk to? The intern or the CFO? Right.
Right.
That way.
Yeah. Thanks, John. I appreciate that. Jared, you want to talk about what you just posted in, working in a small niche? I think that is very applicable to a lot of industrial marketers, right? Where we have a very small focused niche. And you said your company kind of naturally gravitated towards the focus funnel. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I coming from the background before I started my current company, I was just kind of at a digital agency doing a lot of working with smaller companies doing general digital marketing. So kind of coming to my company now, I had to learn the hard way that it's a very, very small market for the majority of our business. So it's naturally, once you find and get in front of those people, there's a lot more qualified leads than bad leads. Now, there are still some of those lesser quality leads, especially at trade show type events, but more often than not, the quality of things that we see coming in are quite high just because it's such a small window of people that we can get in front of.
Awesome. Thanks, Jared. Appreciate that. All right. So we'll move over. We'll talk about, Mary will talk about timeline to marketing ROI.
Yeah. So for those of you guys who follow me on LinkedIn, you might have seen my post about this, but basically what companies want to know is like, yeah, you can tell them marketing takes time and they're going to be like, okay, yeah, whatever. But when can I expect to see results? And I compared it a lot to, I moved to a new state. So, we're trying to make new friends. I have 3 young kids and we have like a community pool. So I'm not going to go to the pool with all the parents of these kids and just be like, hey, my name's Mary, want to be best friends? It's like, no, I'm going to like back off, wait for them to come to me, start natural conversations. Maybe I go to the pool 2 or 3 times. Maybe, then our kids decide to have a play date, maybe we go out to dinner, something like that. So all the companies expect marketing to be the person who busts into the pool and says, hey, want to be best friends? And it's like, you can't do it that way. Marketing results do take time. And when you communicate that timeline to leadership, it kind of helps set those expectations so they're not constantly pressing you on when they can expect to see results from a new tactic or a new strategy. So when done right, you have to start with the foundations. So you have to start with customer research, positioning. So where are you at in the market? Who are your competitors? Why are you better than those competitive alternatives? Messaging. So that means like putting out your positioning statement out in written form. So communicating problems, communicating why you're better than competitors, et cetera. Segmentation is huge. So really defining that ICP. I think that, ICP is ideal customer profile. If you don't know, sometimes I throw out acronyms and I always forget to kind of define them. But defining that ICP is probably where we see the largest struggle. Most of our customers kind of know in general what industry they're targeting. They might know, oh yeah, we do talk to CEOs, but we also talk to engineers. We also talk to operations. We also talk to procurement. But really in there, when you're defining marketing strategy, you have to choose one of those to go after. And that's where we find the most struggle is like, you have to focus on just one of those niches, one of those ICPs. And that's when timeline to marketing really starts to take off. And unfortunately, with a lot of those, and Peyton can speak to this too, we have seen companies lead guerrilla because, hey, they didn't see results in time and they're very anxious for it. And they didn't listen to us when we tried to communicate expectations to results. I'd love to hear what kind of issues you guys are running into when trying to set expectations and trying to set timelines for marketing. We have some like best practices, but most of this is like if everything was sunshine and rainbows, right? So we usually say if you're doing it properly, it'll probably take anywhere from 60 days to like 120 days. Brendon and Peyton, you can feel free to chime in here to create that foundation. So to do the positioning, to do the messaging, to do the segmentation. Then from there, you're going to be creating and distributing content. Now, creating and distributing content can take its own timeline. So that can take anywhere from another, 6 weeks to 3 months. Then 6 months after that, you're really going to start seeing those results come in. Now, if leadership is really pressuring you to do a timeline, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, just say it's going to take 2x my average sales cycle. So if your sales cycle on average is a year, it's going to take 2 years for us to see marketing results because you're building awareness and trust among an audience who might not know your company even exists. So make sure you're setting expectations correctly. Tell them 2x your average sales cycle length.
Yeah, I think when you look at this chart, you start to see that slow, gradual climb. And what you're doing when you start doing a demand generation strategy is you're investing time. Dale had a great question. Like, do you find that most companies are starting from scratch? Is there an audit phase? Yes. And that's that foundation setting. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about that on the next slide too. But I think when there's more foundation to be set, that's when it's harder to stay patient because you have to do all this work to get started, that it feels like that line there in the middle when most companies quit has been forever. Like we've been doing this forever, but you've actually just set the groundwork to now be able to really rev the engine on a paid social campaign. And so you're maybe a month in, 2 months in, not seeing results yet. And you're just like, well, I don't know how to keep putting money at this. So they pull out. But that's right where you're about to turn the corner and start to see that exponential growth.
Beth had a really good question in the chat, and I'd like to invite her on to ask that question.
Beth, feel free to unmute.
Hello. Yeah. So my question is related to, I mean, I think probably a lot of us have similar experiences where we have owners who they're not seeing like an immediate and like fast results. Like I know we've done some like paid ad campaigns where we've seen, some slow increases, but definitely like being effective. But then, like they want to just pull all funds and redirect it towards something that they're comfortable with, like trade shows, even though we typically have like lower return on investment from that. So any suggestions on how to navigate that?
Yeah, I have 2 suggestions, and Brendan, feel free to jump in too.
Yeah.
So my first suggestion would be if you're trying a new strategy, it's a lot like hiring a new sales guy. So companies usually know their sales data like the back of their hand. So you can say, okay, well, this is almost like hiring a new salesperson. How long do you really expect onboarding and then getting used to their territory, getting used to their current customer base? When do you actually expect a sales guy to start bringing in money? Usually it's anywhere from like 6 months, 6 to 12 months, depending on what your company's sales cycle is like. So then I would say, hey, this is a lot like hiring a new sales guy. It's going to take us a long time to see it. Another good way, so that's one tactic you can do. The second tactic is I did this for trade shows at my old company. I tracked every single trade show lead we got through our CRM. If you don't have a CRM, you'll probably have to do a lot of manual data, which kind of stinks. But I think we were closing less than 1% of our trade show leads. And then those trade show leads were turning into like pennies on the dollar compared to some of our other marketing channels. So if you're able to do that, I highly recommend doing it both by sales cycle length and then by dollar value of leads brought in from trade shows if you can.
Okay, cool. I definitely like the sales analogy because I think that's something that would be very relatable to them.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's a good idea.
Yeah,
For
that was
sure.
just gonna be my suggestion, was make sure you're talking to your sales leaders in sales language, right? Like, so don't start throwing in a bunch of marketing acronyms or marketing terms that they're not familiar with, because they'll just glaze over and then they won't listen to you. So you have to speak in their language. And yeah, we have to make it compelling to them. I will also plug a future IML that we're doing in September. We're having Joe Sullivan on, founder of Gorilla, to talk about how to communicate with your leadership about, putting a marketing program in place. So make sure you attend. I think that's going to be the first one we do in the first Tuesday of September. So be on the lookout for that one.
And I just said it to Mary and Brendon. So sorry for sending the email out so late last night, but I'm going to send you a whole list of what's coming up so you guys know the topics and you can plan a little bit more ahead. We know you're busy, so we really appreciate you guys coming to these. Okay.
All right.
So, timeline to results. It's going to take patience, right? Why does it take so much time? Well, we've got 5 things, 5 reasons why this takes time. 1, marketing requires a foundation. We've already started to talk a little bit about this. 2, most of your audience is not buying right now. That's a very small portion of your audience that is actually ready to make a purchase, especially if they're doing some large custom thing, right? 3, earning attention and trust is not easy. We all know this, but it's still true in marketing. It's still true in business. And it's also really easy to lose trust. So, there's 2 sides to that coin. Number 4, marketing results won't outpace your sales cycle. We started talking about this a little bit, but think about what it's like when you hire a new salesperson, that onboarding process, getting them up to speed. Marketing is like that, except you're reaching out to a cold audience 100% of the time. Unless you're retargeting, I guess. I'll let Mary talk more about that. And then 5, marketing is not an alternative to prospecting. So we're not saying cut your sales team, stop doing all this stuff that has been bringing in revenue. We're just saying this is kind of together. Let's do it together. So we're going to talk through these 5 things, and please continue to ask questions throughout, and we'll just keep this going.
Okay, so this is the first one. Marketing requires a foundation. I touched a little bit on this when I was just talking before about marketing timeline to results. I think most companies like to start with the top. So campaigns are sexy, right? It's fun to do Facebook ads. And then maybe your company has already done Facebook ads. And when you bring up something like paid social, their eyes glaze over and they're like, yeah, we tried Facebook ads one time and it didn't work. So like, forget about the Facebook ad thing. And it's like, yeah, you probably did fail at fill in the blank tactic, Facebook ads, LinkedIn, even Google ads, any type of digital marketing tactic, because they just started with the campaign. They didn't start with the foundational things required to measure the success of that campaign. So in order to do this, you have to have focused on-point messaging. So this really goes back to what is the intent of the audience on the channel you want to use. So something like Google ads, yep, super high intent. People are usually ready to get information right now or make a purchase right now. Social media is almost exactly the opposite. People are there to kill time, catch up on their brother's kids, maybe post a little video or two, maybe consume some news article, right? So you have to look at the intent of the audience on the channel you're going. Number two, you have to have an optimized website. I'm sure Dale can hop in here. He's been super helpful. He posts really great content about conversion rate optimization on your website. But optimized website is really key. We do a lot of landing pages for our clients. So that means making sure that when your people do decide to go to your website, that it's really easy to get in touch with you. Number three is that tech stack. So the tech stack is super important, often overlooked. You have to be able to measure the results of the campaign you're hoping to run. Now, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on, Marketo combined with Salesforce or anything like that. Really all you have to do is define that target audience. So I'll give you guys an example. Maybe you're attacking VPs of operations. So right now in your CRM or however you use to track job titles for your company, how many VPs of operations are submitting inquiries right now? So that's your benchmark. Do it month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year. So now with your next one, making sure that you're able to capture that information from these campaigns, you're going to benchmark how many more VPs of operation if that's who you're targeting on paid social. Super, super easy way to show A, your audience is on social media, and B, they like and engage with the content that you're putting out there. Number three is a content strategy. We probably won't go into huge details on this episode, but we might in a future one. If you want to know what kinds of content strategy we do at Gorilla, go to my LinkedIn. I just posted about it this week on the types of campaigns we run and why. So we really focus on that full funnel campaign. So, top might be something like thought leadership. I gave an example that one of our clients does a podcast in the dairy industry. So all they're talking about is micro and macro economic trends in the dairy industry. They're not talking about their company. They're not talking about their clients. They're just putting out thought leadership. So that's that awareness stage. Then we have other content that speaks downward into the funnel, depending on how ready your customers are to buy. Now, once you have all of that set up in the background, then you can ship out your campaigns. And I can't tell you how much easier it is to both run and measure campaigns when you've done that full foundational work. Okay, I just threw a lot at you. So if there's any questions that came up during, just let me know.
The conversation that's going on in the chat right now has mostly been about just when leads come in from marketing, not being, considered the same priority as leads that come in from a sales person. So I think that's a really interesting conversation. I want to make sure we give it time. So I don't know if we want to talk about that toward the end. But I just want to say that issue has come up in multiple strategy calls I've had recently too.
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit to that if you want. So if you're running a campaign and you feel comfortable talking about your product, or at least just getting in touch with someone as almost like an SDR, I would start contacting those leads that you're getting inbound. Now, if you're getting 10, 20, 30 leads a week, this is not going to work. Most of our clients are not getting that volume. So they're getting maybe 1 to 2 a week. Call those leads, make sure you're calling in 1 to 2 days, and then say, get their problem, get exactly what they need, what's their inquiry, and then send them to the sales rep and say, I contacted this guy. He's ready to buy now. You guys need to get in touch with him. So that's how you're going to have to prove the value of your own campaigns. But that's a really great way to show, hey, web leads are just as important as these leads you guys are bringing outbound.
And Mary, it kind of sounds like you did a little customer research there by asking about their problems.
Exactly.
Nice. So my comment here on this slide is everyone wants to talk about campaigns. Everyone wants to talk about all the cool, sexy tactics that they're doing. But that is really like almost a cherry on top on marketing, right? Like marketing requires all the hard, deep work that all those black bars are representing, right? Like creating messaging is hard. It's not easy. It takes a lot of work to talk to customers and, make sure you figure out who your audience is, make sure you're saying the right things to your audience. It takes a lot of work to make sure your website's optimized. It's probably one of the harder things we do here at Gorilla is making sure websites work. That is not easy. And that can cost a lot of money to make that work. Your tech stack, like trying to implement the CRM, getting salespeople to use a CRM, all the other pieces of your tech stack to work. That's hard work. And then like creating a content strategy. I'm not a content person. I'm not a very good writer. I'm not a very good video person. So like I'd have to go out and create content myself or hire somebody to do that. So that gets expensive and hard to do. But all that stuff is necessary so that your campaigns work. So you're not going to have any successful campaigns if you don't do that hard work at the bottom of that pyramid. All right, now with that wet blanket, let's go to the slide. All right. I think, most of our audience is not buying right now. And I think, John, you said it too, so it's, it's budget based, not everyone's got the budget right now to buy what you're selling. And not everyone has a need right now. I think a lot of us are selling large pieces of capital equipment or, very niche industrial products. Not everybody is looking to buy right now. So out of, 100 customers, you might be looking at 5%, maybe if you're lucky 10, but probably like 3 to 5% of your current audience is in a purchasing buying mode right now. But the problem is most of the campaigns that marketers run is all direct response to get people to buy right now, but not everyone's in that mode. So think about like when you're looking at, large brand awareness campaigns from like a Nike or a Ford, most of their ads are about building a brand and, being aspirational about, these shoes will help you run faster, but they're not trying to sell you a shoe in that commercial, right? They're just trying to get you to think about it. So when you do want to buy a shoe, Nike's top of mind, or Ford is top of mind when you're looking to buy a pickup truck. So that, a year from now, when I want to buy a pickup truck, oh yeah, I remember that Ford ad, or, I remember the 30 Ford ads I saw, I might want to go and do a test drive. Peyton, in our call, we talked about Hoka. You want to talk about your experience with Hoka?
Oh yeah. So I can't believe I'm announcing this. I'm training for a marathon right now. So I just bought a new pair of running shoes. I don't need to buy running shoes very often because I don't run very often until just recently, but I've become a Hoka fanatic. They're so soft, cloud-like, whatever. I know all about the shoes. I know all about the new colors. I know all about their new shapes and designs, even though I buy a pair of running shoes maybe once every year and a half. And so whenever it comes time to buy a pair of shoes, I'm going straight to Dick's Sporting Goods or straight to Fleet Feet. And I know the exact model I want when I walk in there. I'm trying it on to make sure that it fits my foot, but just because I've bought their shoes in the past and I've liked some things on their Instagram, they're targeting me constantly, educating me on what has come out, all their new products. And so whenever I am ready, when I switch into buy mode, it's instant.
Yeah.
I already know what I want.
Yeah.
And I'm able to get it really, really quickly. Yeah. I think I'm probably one of those conversations that they have, the shoe fitting consultants. They're really happy to have it, like, okay, cool. You know your brand, you know what size shoe you need. Let's do it.
Yeah. So we have to look at our audience as a whole and not just create content and campaigns for, the 3 orange people on the slide right now, right? Like we need to be educating the whole audience, and we can't be educating them with only buy now content, right? We have to be giving them educational pieces, talking about the industry, talking about their problems, talking about the solutions, building trust. Well, we're going to be talking about this soon, but building trust and just earning their attention so that when they are ready to buy, I don't know how to go back with this. There we go. When they are ready to buy, they think of you first and not your competition. So that moves into this, right? So when we're talking about our whole audience, we have to be, especially when we're talking about the things that we all sell, right? Large pieces of equipment, hundreds, millions of dollars. That takes a lot of trust for an engineer or a purchasing department to say, yes, I want your thing because we think it's going to be the best thing for our operation. So here's a check for $1 million. Like that takes a lot of trust in your customer to want to purchase from you. So instead of always hitting people with, buy now, get a quote now, let's just start educating them, and we can earn attention and trust just by putting out good pieces of content, right? So to hear the problems that you're having, here's some interesting solutions that our company provides. A big part of trust for me. So I've been running trust campaigns on LinkedIn, and under trust, I'm putting all of our case studies. So here's the problems that another person just like you's having. Here's a solution that we provided that customer. And now here's the results that customer had because they used our product. And guess what? That customer is just like you. So now you're starting to build trust. Okay, so now, our companies know, or our customers know, that we know what we're talking about because we're putting out really good expertise type content. And they know that we can get people results because they've seen it in person with case studies. Does anybody have any additions to that or questions on that? Or Mary, do you have any other comments?
No, I think that was great. I was just commenting to some of the sentiments in the chat. It seems like, we're talking a lot about budgets and making sure that you're communicating what you need. But a lot of the time at industrial companies, especially, and this is how it was at my old company too, and your marketing doesn't really have a budget. You just get money from other departments like product engineering, or for us, it was like maybe sales. And then those budgets can easily be stripped or added depending on how successful that one leader decides your campaign or your strategy is. The only advice I can really offer to people suffering from this kind of internal struggle, I found a lot of success with 1 to 2 collaborators. So one of the things I did is something that Whitney mentioned earlier in the chat, which is pairing up with a sales rep. Hers was a business development rep, and really getting them involved in LinkedIn. That helped us a ton. He actually got a lot of inquiries, same Whitney with you, through like DMs and stuff like, oh, hey, like I see you posting about spray nozzles. Like, it's funny, I actually need a new order. Now, ours was set up regionally, so he would have to give those leads to a different rep, but we would always send them to the VP of sales anyways. Like, hey, like this inquiry came in, but it came in directly through this sales rep's LinkedIn DMs. The other collaborator I had a lot of success with was a product development team leader. He was just really bullish on digital marketing. So he saw the value of it. He knew it could work. He just didn't know how to do it, and he was willing to admit it. So I found a ton of success collaborating with him and just saying, like, this is how I see us setting this up. This is how we could execute it. And then he would buy in. And again, if you find someone who's bullish on it and they're willing to admit they don't know what they don't know, they're also willing to listen to your setting expectations on a timeline to results. So yeah, I get it. Earning attention and trust is not easy, not only among your target audience, but among your internal collaborators too.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we just have to be aware, like all these campaigns that we're setting up, and this kind of goes back to what Mary talked about with timeline. Our marketing results are not going to outpace our sales cycle, right? So this is something that we have to be in constant communication with leadership about, is they can't expect to start a campaign and then the next month start getting immediate results, right? Because A, our sales cycles are long, and B, not all of our audience is in a buy mode, right? So I've seen sales cycles up to a year, up to 2 years sometimes for industrials, right? It takes a long time to sell a big piece of equipment. And you can't expect to outpace that with your marketing because it's going to take time for that sale to even happen, right? So even if someone raises their hand, fills out the form on your website and says, yes, I want to get more information, it's still going to be a year, 2 years maybe to sell that thing and get a contract in your hand, right? So we have to think like, and there's also, the visible sales cycle that we see in the CRM, the time that they raise their hand to become a lead until they get the contract. But there's also like an invisible, dark, whatever you want to call it, sales cycle that happens well before they even get in contact with you, right? Like they're spending a lot of time researching and understanding their problem and finding solutions. They like a lot of our customers already know what they want before they start talking to us, right? When they talk to us, they want to start seeing a demo. They want to get specific information about how our product can work in their process. So they know a lot and they've spent a lot of time researching this, right? So I would just say, like, if your sales cycle is 6 months, don't expect to get a lot of marketing results before 6 months. It's gonna take you some time. So that has to be a conversation you have with leadership, but it's like they know, like they have a real sales cycle, so their sales team is under that sales cycle as well. So don't let yourself not be under that same common currency with time, right? If your sales team gets X amount of time to make a sale, you should also get X amount of time to bring leads in. Mary, what do you think about that?
Yep, couldn't agree more. Look, I talk about this a lot on LinkedIn. It's not exactly a topic everyone likes to talk about, but I don't think you should underestimate the statement that it's not worthwhile to work for a CEO who doesn't or refuses to understand marketing. I'm just going to leave it at that.
So I just want to give a shout out to Jared, who just dropped in the chat that they just had a sales cycle of 8 years, right? So hopefully your market results happen faster than that.
Not done yet, Brendon.
Oh, not done yet. Oh, this
close.
This close. Okay. Jared, we're praying for you. Good luck. Oh, man. All right, Mary, let's talk about, marketing is not an alternative to prospecting. We're not saying that you're going to get rid of your sales team. We're not saying that inside sales doesn't have a place in your companies. But marketing is definitely a thing that can add to that. So Mary, why don't you kick us off and talk about this?
Yeah, this is perfect. I just posted about this today on LinkedIn. I know I keep shouting that out. Sorry about that. So I think the traditional method for marketing is like, okay, so sales tells engineering, engineer tells marketing, I created product X. Now make me a brochure, make me a spec sheet, send out an email campaign. Then sales, they'll bring it up if it makes sense to a current customer, maybe as an upsell, maybe as an add-on. Even worse, they might have to cold call a bunch of customers and tell them, hey, this new amazing product came out, right? So the way that we see marketing working with sales in the new way of a go-to-market strategy is, hey, sales tells engineering that customer asked for product X. Engineering brings in marketing to help them conduct customer and market research about a potential product X. Marketing brings those findings back to engineering. Engineering creates this product X with new features and benefits that are specific to market research, right? At the same time, marketing is creating and distributing content relevant to product X. So speaking to the problems that were unearthed during this customer and market research. Now, as the content is distributed, qualified buyers come to sales asking about product X. And now sales is doing really nice consultative selling with buyers who are ready to buy. Obviously, that's a perfect world. It's a longer timeline, but this speaks really well to marketing. We're not expecting marketing to be an alternative to prospecting. We're expecting it to be an amplifier for prospecting. What do you think, Brendon?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, the goal with the new way or with demand generation is to eliminate your sales team from having to cold call. The hope is that, with the amount of sales people that you have, that you're bringing in enough high intent leads on the website where they don't have to spend their time cold calling and prospecting. So I don't know what the sales leaders think out there, but to me, it seems like a massive waste of time and you're not really moving the needle forward. If you're closing like 1% or you're getting a lead out of 1% of the calls that you're making, it just doesn't seem like a good use of the salesperson's time. And I think sometimes with hard prospecting that happens to me, right, with the amount of cold emails and cold LinkedIn DMs and cold calls that I get, that turns me off of brands and it makes me not really want to interact with them anymore because it's pretty annoying and I don't like it. And I feel like there's a lot of engineer type people that our customers usually are, that don't appreciate that as well. So I would ideally like to see, cold calling and cold emailing having to go away because we're bringing in enough high intent leads. And then maybe, I think a lot of sales teams are also probably too big. So there's that too. What was the other point I was going to make here? Shoot, just lost it.
Well, I'll fill in the blank here. John says one good way that sales can work with marketing is you use prospecting to gain interest and curiosity, and then marketing can come in to help support that sales process or prospecting process.
Oh, I just got it. So with your sales team,
we lost your screen, Brendon. Hold on.
Yep, I turned it off. We don't need it anymore. It was just a guy. Just a guy. Yeah. So with the sales team right now, so instead of like we talked about, like not everybody in your audience is in a buy mode right now. And I think your sales team understands that, hopefully, or should understand that. So, one thing that you can do with your sales team is use them to distribute content for you and with an ABM play, right? So we have a bunch of emails and phone numbers from Zoom Info or Sales Navigator. So instead of going in hard and asking, for, getting a quote or getting files or starting a project, how about we just, do a soft reach out and, hey, I think you might be having this problem similar to another customer that we have. I hope this piece of content helps you out. I think when you look at engineer, like not everyone's on LinkedIn, not everyone's on Facebook. So if all your campaigns are based on doing digital campaigns, you're going to miss somebody. So, maybe you can use your sales team to help you reach people that you can't reach with your campaigns. So, here's this really good expert article that we just did. Here's a webinar. Please come to the webinar. Don't, follow up with a sales call right away. Here's a case study. So what do you guys think about that? Using your sales team as a way for you to distribute content? Good idea, bad idea?
Yeah, I like it, Brendon. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I think that
Jared had a really, go ahead, Peyton. Go ahead.
I think it goes back to the point that we've made in a couple IMLs ago about protecting your leads too. And this is coming up in the chat a little bit too. Just, making sure that, if you host a webinar or if someone downloads a white paper, that doesn't necessarily mean that they've shown interest in your product. It means that they've shown interest in like the content that you've created. That doesn't mean that they're ready to buy your product. So that's not the type of lead that you should be handing over to sales. If you're handing a white paper lead to sales saying, here's someone you can prospect, that's probably going to end poorly, or just be a really long process for them. So when we're saying like marketing qualified lead, we're talking about high intent leads, someone who's filled out a form that says, I'm requesting a consultation. I'm requesting you to contact me. My hand is up. I'm ready to have a conversation. Those are the leads we're saying that we should pass along to sales. All right. So we have a couple questions in here.
Yeah, we got lots of questions.
Sorry. Yeah, we do.
So Mary's in a loud environment and can't get on right now. But so she had a question here. Speaking of social media, on LinkedIn, do you think it is more valuable? Do you see more success on company pages or sales employee personal pages? And one of my past jobs as sales team had social metrics they needed to reach, which that is interesting. I've never really heard that. So that's cool. The marketing department basically wrote social posts for salespeople's personal accounts and spent a lot of time training them on LinkedIn best post practices. They were the face of the brand rather than the company's own LinkedIn page. She says in her current role, the focus is on the corporate LinkedIn page. So Mary, what do you think about using personal pages versus the company page?
Definitely personal pages over company pages. I think most people have proved that out in the chat. Company pages just don't get the same reach. Sharing posts get very diminished reach. Highly recommend doing organic posting, meaning posting in the feed live. So if you're sharing it, it's going to get lost in the shuffle. Now, as far as should salespeople be coming on, only in very specific instances at first to prove out the concept. So I proved out the concept at my old company and then had the caveat that said, but sales guys should not be doing this. They don't have to be posting on LinkedIn all the time. They can use Sales Navigator to prospect or to help develop warm leads. You know who should be posting is your founders, your leadership team, your product development teams, your
Mhm.
market development teams. They know more about the product than anyone. So they're the ones who really should be posting. I'll give you guys an example. We did like a webinar, so a live event series with our engineering team. And we just talked about random topics related to spray technology, something that was like very interesting to operations guys and engineering guys who are our ICP. So then I would chop up those videos so that they could post them on their personal pages if they wanted to. If not, then we just use it for distribution, or I just posted it organically on YouTube. That's a really good way to show them, hey, people care a lot more about what our experts are saying rather than what our sales guys are saying. I mean, sales guys have enough to do already. You know, we're already asking them to be more than what they are. So I would really put that pressure back on leadership and engineering teams. What do you think, Brendon?
Yeah, so I totally agree with that, Mary. I would say don't not post on your company page though, especially if you're running paid campaigns. The most thing that gets clicked on when you're running ads is your company name back to your company page on LinkedIn. And I think it's probably true maybe for Facebook as well. So you make sure that there is some, like, it doesn't have to be constant, but make sure that there's some content on your company page. So when people go there, they see that it's not a graveyard and that you're, that there's other content that they can interact with on there. So don't forego that, but yeah, personal pages definitely do perform better.
Awesome. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation today. Thank you to so many of y'all for coming on and joining the conversation. If you'd like to keep things running with the IML community in between sessions, we do these every 2 weeks. Join us in Slack. You're all invited. Just post in the chat if you'd like an invite or send me an email. Glad to get y'all in there. And we will definitely keep talking more about leads, qualifying them. I've written that down as a potential topic in the future. If you have any other topic ideas, shout them out.
Peyton, what topics do we have coming up?
Brad,
Sorry to
put
put you
me
on
on the spot. Well, I did look up September 8th is going to be our conversation with Joe, where we're going to talk about how to position marketing in the eyes of your CEO and how to get marketing a seat at the table. I know some of y'all were talking about budgets and things like that. So September 8th, mark your calendars. I believe it's August 25th. I'll check the calendar there. Our Thursday event in August, we are having a guest on to talk a little bit more about Salesforce and CRMs in general.
So that one specifically is going to be how marketing can use CRMs to help hand leads and opportunities off to sales. That was a question Jared had posted in IML, the Slack group, a while ago. And so Jared, we're going to get to that one. We have a Salesforce consultant from an agency called Hike 2. His name's Michael Murphy joining us on the 25th. So that should be a really good conversation. And then on August 9th, Gorilla's own Grace Wright is joining us to talk about SEO and is it viable for industrial still? Yeah. And then I think towards the end of September, we're going to talk about building a modern go-to-market for industrial products. So we have, I think, some interesting topics coming up in the next couple of months. And then we're still looking for the right ones for the end of the year. So if you have any other ideas, put them in Slack.
Thanks so much, y'all. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Cheers.